What's up, y'all? What's good? Welcome to the What Up Dope Show. It's your boy Dame D, and I am back with another one. Just want to come on for a hot second and talk about these freezing temperatures we got out here today. And just talk about how blessed we are to not be able to be outside in these weathers. You know what I mean? We all take a lot of a lot of stuff like that for granted. On cold days and nights like this. I think I got Big Ken that's going to come in and join me in a second, so I'm waiting on him to come in. But yeah, how many of us take nights and days like this for granted? It was a cold one last night. So give me your thoughts, your opinion. You know, um, on the weather, how it felt to you last night, and then how it may have felt to someone who had to, be out here in this weather last night. You got a lot of homeless people. Hopefully they found shelter last night. And then just not the people too. I'm mainly talking about the people, but a lot of people forget about the animals that's out there. Just imagine, all the stray dogs and cats, you know, um, that was outside, left out there to pretty much die, if they were out there, and I got Big Ken, he's gonna be joining me too. He's a dog owner. He love a pet owner, I should say, have pets. So, on nights like this, you still have a lot of people that have their pets and their dogs outside, freezing, while they're on the inside, chilling, and that's animal cruelty to me. And it's a lot of people in Detroit like that. They'll have their dogs outside, with really none, no shelter really. Nights like this, it doesn't even matter if you have a dog house with hay in it. No dog should be outside in temperatures like this. He should be inside with you, especially if that's your dog and you love him. So if you see anybody with their dog outside, report their ass, because you wouldn't have your ass outside in these temperatures like that. So, so just, like I said in the title, count your blessings. Imagine having to be out and live out in this and be out in this weather right now. It's freezing out there, so I advise anybody, and I thank God I didn't have to get up and commute and go to work today and didn't have to be out in this. So, you got to count your blessings. We take a lot of this, days like this for granted. You know what I mean by that? It's someone that's out here, homeless, out here on the streets, walking around, in this weather, and I'm not, and you got to put a lot of that on them, but there's a lot of people that can't control their circumstances that's out here in that, so hopefully they found shelter last night. Hopefully someone opened up their doors and let them come in for the night, because it's definitely going to be it's going to be probably record temperatures tonight and tomorrow. So like I said, I just wanted to come on for a second and see what neck of the woods you guys are in, and let me know how cold it is where you at. Give me give me an idea on what the temperatures are, and what state you're in. But here in Michigan, here, let me look on the Weather Channel right now. It's 3 degrees, and it probably feels like it's Alaska. It's a winter weather advisory. Winter weather advisory. These conditions are expected by 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time Sunday. So it's 3 degrees, and it's going to get a little warmer, 2 degrees, and then once the sun set, I know they were talking about negative degrees, but I guess they're not showing that. But yeah, it's still cold. To me, it feels like it's last night. It felt like it was negative. I had to stop and put gas in my car. And what was so crazy, and I learned my lesson on that one, not to go to that gas station, to go to that pump again. Because I go to the gas station, I put 30 on a certain pump, and I go out there, I'm starting to pump my shit. And you know how you pump it and you click the thing and you have the thing hold it and pump your gas for you. Well, it was broke. So I had to stay in there and hold my nozzle, hold the gas nozzle and hold the gas the whole time. Oh my God. I almost wanted to put the thing back and let it go back on my car. It was so cold. Yep. So but back to what I was saying, man, we have to count our blessings, and continue doing what you're doing, and to not be able to be out here in these type of this type of weather, I should say. Because it was freezing. So if you have loved ones, family members, that's out here in this, do whatever you can do to, try to help them get on the inside because it's freezing. You know, um, I'm quite sure shelters and things like that. The shelters are probably was overcrowded last night. So, you know, um, hopefully everybody found a safe, warm spot last night, because it was freezing. In situations like that, I guess that's what shelters and things are for. But yeah, hopefully everybody's having a great Saturday. Hopefully everybody is warm and being safe out there. You know, um, I want to give a shout out to the workers, to the people who have to be outside working in this weather. To the mail people. I used to be a mail carrier, so I know. You know, um, working in these type of elements is rough. So I want to give my hats off to all my U.S. mail carriers. A good friend of mine is a couple of good friends of mine are that I'm still cool with are mail carriers. Londale Bright, I believe April Chambers. She still may be a postal carrier if I'm not mistaken. Up so jobs like that, I give my hats off to those guys. Because even in the summer, it's rough being out there in the heat, but I couldn't imagine, having to wake up, go outside and, having to do your job in this weather, so I give my hats off to those guys, even to the Amazon workers, everybody who's out there working in this cold, it's rough. Yep, definitely rough. So you have to count your blessings, if you have a job where you're on the inside. I know a lot of us, probably don't like getting up, going to our jobs. But imagine if you had to get up and go to your job today and you worked outside. Yeah, it would be rough. It would be a rough day. Yeah, first and foremost, let me make sure I can be heard. I've been talking. Make sure you guys can hear me. To the people that I send links out to come on in. But Big Dave, let's go ahead and get started. Hold on. That's not it. I know I'm lying. I know I'm lying. Okay, there we go. So I can be heard. So yeah. So we definitely have to count our blessings. We could be out here working in this weather, or it could be worse. We can be out here homeless, living in this type of situation. But I guess if you're homeless, I'm not going to say you put yourself in that situation. Because it can be other circumstances. Too that that a person could be homeless. So basically, my main point. Hold on, I got Big Ken coming to the stage. No,
What it do?
hold on. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. What's good with you? What's good with you?
Oh man, just doing a little running around the house, doing a few things. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just sitting here chopping it up, talking about this weather out there, man. It's horrible. I was just basically talking to the people, you got to count your blessings, because you can be out, and this. You worked out in this type of weather before with your snow,
Yeah,
with your lawn care services. So you
yeah.
worked in extreme heats and in extreme colds, So, but earlier I was just talking, man, like count your blessings, far as just the people who have to get up and go out and work and make a living in this type of weather. So give me your thoughts, give me your opinion on this type of weather, man. People who have to go to work in this type of weather.
It's several different scenarios. For the people that got to go to work in this weather, they got to bundle up and be prepared, especially if you don't have a car. You know what I mean? Because it could be the type of weather that'll mess your feet and hands up standing and in this stuff for too long. But it could be a blessing for some people. Like you said, I had landscaping service and snow removal, and when I was out there, I used to be begging for days like this because I had my plow and I had just had my engine rebuilt in my truck, so I was ready to get out there and get this money. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So in that case right there, it's a blessing for people that's don't made their business and looking forward to this type of weather. But you got to be ready for that too. You know what I mean? So you just got to prepare for it. I'm tired of seeing it though. That was 15, 20 years ago when I was out there in the field. I'm really tired of seeing it right now. But it could be a blessing for some people. You know what I mean? And
Right.
for the
And that's
people
the
that
first
got to
thing
be
that I
in it,
say when we get a snowstorm, because me personally, I hate the snow. I would rather do without it. I can deal with the cold weather, but snow and cold weather at the same time is too much. So that's what I say. I say, I understand when we get to snow, because people make a living out here removing the snow, so they count on weather like this, you know what I mean, to be able to feed their family. So I understand that part, so I'll give my hats off to those guys who's out here, like I said, the mail carriers, the people who's out here removing the snow,
right?
the city workers and things like that. People depend on this type of weather for
We do,
to be able to feed their families.
and we depend on them because we got to
Yes,
get out here and
exactly.
go to work.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So earlier I was talking about the no good people who's sitting in their their warm houses while their dogs are outside freezing. Give me your thoughts, give me your opinion on that. How can people, that call themselves a pet owner, that loves their dog, man's best friend, you got him outside freezing his ass off in these type of weather. You know what I mean? So give me your thoughts and opinion on, pet owners who allow their dogs to, be out here in this type of weather.
they probably shouldn't be pet owners. You wouldn't want to go out there and have your feet touching nothing that's giving you frostbite or anything of that nature. Dogs is just like us. They feel the same stuff we feel. So if you got them outside in the cold, it's been time to bring them in like weeks ago. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
So
because a night like last night, if you had Rover out there, more than likely when you went outside this morning, Rover was frozen, like a steak. You know what I mean? Rover is not with us today. If he was out here
right.
last night and you did not bring him in,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. My dog, she got on my nerves last night because she wanted to go outside to use the bathroom. I don't let her out there, but she like 10 years old, so she peeing and stuff a lot more than a dog
Then
that's
usual,
a
right? I
lot
got a
younger.
dog, so I'm letting her out all day. But go ahead,
So
I understand you.
you know what I mean on that, D. So
Right.
I had to let her out. I say about 2 minutes into me letting her out, she was screaming and like somebody was behind her with a 30 cal or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let
Hey,
me in.
listen. When I let my dog out, she go out there real quick. She turn to do her duty and run right back in. So that let because most dogs, when you let them outside, they'll want to stay outside and linger around for a little bit. Shit. Not when it's like that.
Yeah,
She
well, just
shot
like
right
this,
back in.
they don't want to be out there no time other than to handle their business and come right back in.
Yeah, you don't have to tell them to come on back in. They already know. It ain't that time. It ain't
No,
we ain't on that time today.
no, they know that's death out there. You leave them out there, that's death. I used to make jokes with my wife saying, she keep on barking like that, she gonna turn it to a popsicle. I'm gonna leave her out there. And literally, they will turn it to popsicles
Yeah,
if you leave
yeah,
them out there
exactly.
too long.
So So, a shame on you, pet owners that allow your dogs to be outside in these type of temperatures and you're inside your warm home. You should feel like, a piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, and you got people
yeah.
like that, so I just want to come on, and talk about that for a second. You have to count your blessings. You could be out here working, or you could be out here homeless, and I want to speak about that. We have a lot of homeless people throughout the city, and there's not enough shelters to be able to house everybody, so give me your thoughts on just being a homeless person. And I know a lot of homeless people, they probably are used to it being out there in these type of elements for years, but when it's cold and it's like minus, these temperatures we've had this upcoming week, Big Ken, it's almost impossible for anyone to survive out that, so give me your opinion on the homeless people who have to be outside in these elements.
Wow, that's a tough one. I just feel like at this point they need family and shelter somewhere they can go. Because if we talking about a dog can't survive in this, a human definitely can't survive. And a dog go dig a hole somewhere and get low as he can to try to deal with the cold. But a human, it's totally different. So I just feel like, when you got somebody out there that might be mentally challenged trying to deal with this cold weather, somebody in their family need to probably go looking for them because they're dying this.
Yeah, should no one should be out. So, and I spoke about this earlier before you had came in. I'm like, if you have a family member or a loved one or a friend, even if you can't bring them into your home, try to, at least lead them or try to guide them to a shelter or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you should feel some type of way knowing that, you have a loved one or a family member that's out here in these type of environments.
And
This today, I should say, in these upcoming days.
it's a lot of people. I know one or two people like this. They don't have no one. They done
Right.
lost everybody in their family, and they don't have no one other than maybe a shelter or the police or somebody that say, "Hey, can we take you somewhere?" So it's people like that out here, whether people believe it or not, that don't have no one
You
to
know what?
let
And,
them
and I'm
in.
glad, and you're right. And I'm glad you said that. That's why you see a lot of bums. Well, I'm not going to even say a lot of bums, but that's why you see a lot of homeless people during this time of year, in jail, or in prison, because
Yeah,
they don't have anyone to be able to,
right.
help them
Go
out
to.
or put them up, until the weather is, until the weather has broken. So, the jail rate goes up, you know what I mean? Because you have a lot of homeless people that's that know that they can go to jail, and do the winter, locked up, and then get back out in the summer.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so I try to say my prayers, man, and I count my blessings, and I thank the Most High for that I'm not out here in this elements, because sometimes people do things to put themselves in situations where they're out there, and then sometimes you can't control certain circumstances. You know what I mean? Like you said, it may you may have a loved one that may have a mental illness or may be going through a certain situation that may have them out there, so that's why I say you got to count your blessings, especially if you somewhere and you're sheltered and you got heat, you good right now.
Right. That's something to be thankful for, that you under some heat and the other people is not under heat. That's a blessing in itself.
Yes, it is. So that's why I said you got to count your blessings, because you can be out here in this shit right now, homeless or just even working. Like I said, that's why I said I want to give a shout out to all the mail carriers, all the city workers who have to make a living in this type of weather, because it's rough and it's harsh. And I'm giving a shout out to my sister. I forgot, she worked at the airlines, and she out here in this shit,
In the element.
flagging the planes and things like that. So give a shout out to Lakeisha Hope. She has to, be out here in these temperatures. So like I said, it's not just the homeless people, it's people who have to get out here, and work in these environments and that make a
Not only
living
that,
on
they got to
working in
work
these
in
type
it, and
of temperatures. What you say, Big Ken?
I said, not only that, they got to smile in it because they doing a job.
Yeah.
And that's hard within itself. Imagine it's 9 below. Today is 9 below zero. And some people have to greet people. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And you got to smile while doing your job.
Exactly. So that's why I say you got to count your blessings, while you can, because anything can, circumstances can change, so you have to and that's why I don't look down on homeless people or situations like that, because it can happen to us, circumstances can change for anybody in a drop of a hat. So and I'm not saying that a lot of them has put themselves in those circumstances or those situations, but you can't look down on people, because one day you may find yourself in that situation.
Real talk.
Yep. So and I say it to myself all the time, man. I can be like at a light and it can be like 80 degrees outside. And you can see like a homeless person or a motherfucker out there holding a sign, and you just like, you gotta thank, whatever God that you pray to, like, cause you could be out there in those temperatures, we take a lot of things for granted, until we have to be outside in these temperatures going through what, a lot of people are going through who have to be out here in these temperatures, so I advise everybody who's a pet owner, bring your pet in, you know what I mean? Make a space for Rover, if you love your dog, you wouldn't have him out here in these temperatures.
Right. That brings me back to that old Run DMC song. Run DMC song. He say, you see a bum eating out a garbage can, you realize that used to be your man's. It's like that, what? And that's the way it is.
It is. Ooh. Right.
I could imagine seeing one of my homeboys. I turn the corner and I see him eating out the garbage can. I would have to help him to do something to get him out that situation. Just like this cold, if you can help somebody get in a better situation, you need to do that.
Yeah. And I just not recently, I did a story on this young lady from Detroit. She lost her house. She had, I believe, like three to four kids. And you probably remember the story. She ended up driving to one of the hotel casinos in the parking lot and ran out of gas. No, I believe she may have ran out of gas or one of the kids ended up dying of hypothermia. One of the kids froze to death. I think she ran out of gas in the goddamn parking lot.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. She lost multiple kids.
Yeah, and they end up
They
doing
all
the
died.
GoFundMe and they raised all type of money and stuff for her.
Yeah, that was sad. I remember that. The woman said she went to her friends and family for help. Nobody wanted to help. So the best thing she could do was go to a parking lot and let the car warm up, and everybody went to sleep. But when she woke up, the kids had died from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And that was a sad situation. Like I said, I had did that story talked about that and did a story on that last year. And thinking back, I wonder, and you guys put it in the comment section, like, comment, subscribe, and share. I wonder how she's doing now to this day. Hopefully she, learned from her mistakes, and got herself together, because she lost, like you said, a couple of children in that situation. That was horrible. She ended up, I thought she ran out of gas and they froze to death, but you said it was carbon monoxide. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, she was trying to keep them warm in the car.
Right.
And they all they got carbon monoxide poisoning. And she didn't. She lived.
Right.
And all the kids died. Yeah, that was a horrible story.
Yeah, it was,
but
so
just let you know that if you got family out here and they come to you for help, in any kind of way. If you can help them, you should, because it could be you one day.
Yeah,
You know.
and I know that family probably feel like shit, and I guarantee you that same family, that turned their back on her when that GoFundMe money came in. I guarantee you, you had probably a few of them that had their hands out,
Yeah.
that turned their
Yeah.
back on that, but hopefully that young lady, from what I heard, I believe they got her, a house, in a new minivan, a new car, something like that, in a few dollars. So hopefully she did the right things, and was able to sustain herself after that, because even after that, man, I saw pictures of her online partying and things like that. So hopefully she did the right thing, because she definitely was blessed to be able to come out of that situation and was not, and then she was blessed for not being charged and not doing no time behind that. Because like I said,
Yeah.
I did a story about that, and
Yeah,
if
most definitely.
to
I
me, in
believe.
my opinion, she should have did some time.
Yeah, I felt like, it was a horrible situation because, she said she reached out to the father of the kids and he was all on the news and stuff. It was just a horrible thing. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
oh,
you
it
know,
was.
sometimes you might not think a situation is worse than what the person said is, and it might be worse than what they said is. So if you got loved ones out there, kids with somebody, and the kids can do better staying with you, that's where they need to be at.
See, but
And
my whole thing is, how did they die of carbon monoxide if they were outside? This was an outside parking garage, right?
you know what, bro? I would be lying if I said I knew exactly where it was at. I just remember,
Niche.
you know,
They were in one of the parking garages at I believe it was
yeah,
the
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, one of the casinos. I can't remember
So I mean, it
the
could have just
exact
been
one. I
from
think
all
it
the
was in
carbon
the
monoxide
Motor
from the
City.
cars and stuff coming in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seemed like that would have been ventilated, meaning that it's
She
not
might have had the
an
windows down.
enclosed facility. You know what I mean?
I don't know. That's what she said though. So, and the police report didn't say it was no different. So,
See, because I thought they actually died of hypothermia, but you said the
you
results
know
came
what?
back.
You know what? I could be wrong. Whatever state the kids died from, it could have been prevented. Let's say that.
Right.
You know,
I'm gonna have to
she,
go back
she
and look that up.
yeah, most definitely, because I don't want to be saying things that's what I remember, but I could be wrong. I know they died of something that could have been prevented if somebody in her family would have stepped up and said, "Hey, the kids can stay here. You grown. I might not have enough room for you, but I can at least take care of the kids till
I'm
you
actually
could do
getting
better."
ready. I'm actually going to my page now to try to find that story.
Yeah,
But that was a sad situation and I couldn't understand. I'm like,
yeah, that was a horrible
because first and
story.
foremost, it sounded like to me like that she lost her housing. Because I'm quite sure, a mother with that many kids would have probably had some type of housing or Section 8. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was horrible. If I can remember right, the grandmother was in the car too.
Yeah, I believe it was another adult in the car. But yeah, I'm looking for the
Yeah,
story now and I'm gonna play it.
yeah,
Yep, but man, should nobody be out here in these type of temperatures?
homelessness is real,
Okay, here it is. Here it
especially
is
when you
right
got
here. I'm gonna see if I
kids.
can play it.
It
Tell
get
me if you
10
can hear
times
it.
realer when you got kids and they homeless with you.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that movie with Will Smith when him and his son had to live in a bathroom. He had to tell him it was gonna be all right. You remember that movie?
Can you hear this? End up freezing to
Yeah.
death, dying. I have audio and video of the situation that I'm going to play. So, okay, I'm going to play this video and then we'll get back to that because I want to see what actually happened. What did the news report say?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, just a sad situation. I have a lot of questions, after we get past this.
Mother trying to cope with a heartbreaking family tragedy is speaking out tonight to 7 News Detroit. She had been living in a van parked at the Hollywood Casino parking garage with her 4 children when the unthinkable happened. 2 of them died from what appears to be hypothermia. 7 News
Okay.
Detroit reporter Brett Cass telling us the mom says she tried to get help for her homeless family, but no one answered the call until it was too late.
She said from their homeless family.
7 News Detroit reporter Brett Cass telling us the mom says she tried to get help for her homeless family.
Oh, for
but
her
no one
homeless
answered
family.
the call until it was too late.
Okay, there we go. So there we go. So that's what it was. And
Hypothermia.
yeah, I think still Cox, the reports probably came back that they died of hypothermia. You know,
Okay.
so they said that's what they thought that the kids have died. That's what it looked like. You know, but yeah, it was two of her kids that died in that situation like that. You know, so you got to count your blessings, man. Like I said, I thought at that time when I originally heard that story, I was a little upset with the young woman, because I'm like, hold on, a mother of 4 or however many kids she had, I'm like, she should have had some type of housing or something like that. You know what I mean? Where those kids could have should have not been in that car, so she fucked that up some way, somehow. And even her own family turned their backs on her, on her in that situation. Seemed like they would at least allow for the children to be able to come in and spend the night that night. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
kind of messed up when you have family that won't even take the kids in, that allow for the kids to freeze overnight inside of a van. Give me your thoughts and opinion on that.
Man, it's still hard to believe that she couldn't get no type of help, and you got 4 kids, and you got your mother staying with you. I'm like, that was something straight out of a movie. That's all I could say. That's horrible. Like,
Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. Yep.
yeah,
So
I'm just shaking my head right now. Like, anybody that's having to go through that right now, you should go to a shelter or anything other than letting your kids freeze. Whatever you got to do, cry, beg, plead, don't knock on somebody's door. Don't never let yourself be in a position where you got your kids freezing and, a situation like that. That's just, like I said, straight out of a horror movie. You know what I'm saying? To think that I'm finna get a call from my baby mother or whoever saying that the kids don't froze because would nobody let me in because you didn't people said no to you. Ain't no when you got kids. I don't care if you got to drop them off at the police station. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, there's no way in the world that a motherfucker could be that heartless if you come to their doorstep. That family literally, you got to call it like how it is. They was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
If this young woman came to them for help, and they did not allow for those children to be able to come in and at least, get out of the cold for that night. So
If
I don't know what else to say about that.
if not, since I'm sitting up here thinking about it, I don't think nobody would have been that cold-blooded. I believe what happened was she probably did ask people and tell them her situations, but in a situation like that, people going through their own stuff, and a lot of people don't know how bad it is. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I felt like she didn't do enough to save those kids. I'm just gonna say that the
Yeah.
done what had kids is dead, and what happened. But I feel like she didn't do enough. She cried and she was very remorseful, and I know she didn't want what happened to her kids to happen. But it's a lesson for all of the world, all of Detroit, everybody. That can't happen.
Yeah, that should
We
be a
should-
lesson to young mothers, not to be out here having kids and not being able to have your kids in a situation where they're not out here and they're facing these type of elements, out here homeless. That should be a lesson to everyone. Never have yourself in a situation where you have yourself and your children outside in these elements. You have to do everything necessary to be able to make sure that your children are not outside in these type of temperatures. And that mother did not do that. So
she did do that. So she dropped the ball on that, and that's a lesson to, like you said, all young mothers out here that's don't have the support that they think they need. Never. It ain't never that bad where you can't go to the police station or somewhere. They gonna let you in because you got they not animals. And,
Yeah,
and, and and
and
if they
that
out here,
family, they were animals, and I'm just gonna call
yeah,
it what it is. What type of family member do you call yourself? And me and my children, we don't always see eye to eye. We have arguments, disagreement, but I don't think I would never turn my back on my child that came to me in need of shelter, in a freezing temperature, so that to me, they had no heart, no sympathy, no empathy for that woman and her kids. So to me, it sounded like she wore her welcome out, and I know, and
yeah,
I understand sometimes
yeah,
people can wear their welcome out. She probably put herself in that situation where she probably was staying house to house, with family members, and wasn't doing anything to, get herself out of that situation. So I can see why, why probably family members turned her down that night, because she probably
right.
was already there, wore her welcome out, and they didn't want to let her back in.
Well,
That's the only reason why I can look at it.
I just feel like they didn't know that the situation was that dire where she was finna go stay in her car in the parking lot. A lot of people turned their back on her, but I just feel like, if it was that dire, somebody would have took those kids in. I feel like she didn't try hard enough to something like that. You can sit out in the car and be all right, but your kids that's 30 and 25 pounds and stuff like that, they depend on warmth and stuff to get them through the night. Big blankets and covers and stuff. Not no whatever you got, your clothing, that's all you got to protect you in a car. It was horrible.
Hey man, it's horrible. That's just like today when I woke up. I got up, my son was up, I went in there, he had his little tablet on. I'm up under the cover, he got up under there with me. It's I get to do that on the weekends when I'm off, and this made me think about that, man. I gotta do everything I gotta do to be able to make sure that my children are protected, that my son has a roof over his head, and he never has to go through these type of situations that we're talking about, so me as a parent, um and this shit goes out to all parents, we have to do what we have to do to be able to support and make sure that our children are not facing these type of situations, because children shouldn't have to, they was not brought into this world. He don't know what's going on. Thing he want to do is just wake up and watch cartoons and eat cereal, in the bed.
You're
What I
right.
mean?
You want to be a kid. That's all.
Yeah. So I couldn't imagine, my son, or any of my kids, but I'll just use him
I
as
ain't
an
trying to cut
example,
you off, but
because he's a baby still.
what was the name of that Will Smith movie with him and his son? It
Uh,
was
yeah, that was I forget the name. It'll come to me in a second,
some
but
with a
go ahead.
P. For some with a P.
All right, go ahead. You can
But
talk
that was a real touching story when him and his son was in the
in the
bathroom
bathroom.
and he had to explain to his son that they couldn't leave out that bathroom because he had to make him believe something that wasn't real so his son wouldn't panic. At the end of the movie, it ended up being a great ending, but that part right there brought me to tears.
Yeah, because they
And
were
I'm a
living
grown
out
ass
of a bathroom.
52-year-old man. When anybody see that movie and see somebody telling their son or daughter that we can't leave out this bathroom and just pretend that it's a castle or whatever he said to make him feel comfortable.
Right,
It was a jerking moment, and I couldn't imagine. And they wasn't even in the winter. It wasn't even the winter, or it wasn't the story that we talking now.
right,
But it was just a story of a man having to humble himself, no matter what his conditions he was in for his child.
right.
So, yeah, bro.
And he did what he had to do to shelter his son for at least for that night.
For that night. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
His
So
son cried, told him he wanted to go home and all of that. But Man, life.
Yeah, he turned a bad situation, into a negative situation into a positive situation at the end of the day. I believe, like
Yeah,
you said, at the end of that movie, it turned out to be a great ending. I believe the father ended up getting a great job and turned his situation around. And that's what it's about, man. And I forget who I don't know if he was helped or he actually did it on his own, but you can turn your if especially if someone's watching this that may be going through, some, we all go through things, there you definitely can turn your situation around, and that man did, so saying all that, to get back to what I was saying, you have to do everything possible to make sure that your kids are not outside living in these type of situations. You know what I mean? So we take
yeah,
a lot of stuff for granted until we in these type of situations. So you know,
yeah.
I have to remind myself of things like that.
Yeah, man, that's one of those things where life, and when you got to deal with the elements when you don't want to. I wouldn't want to have
Yeah,
to live and be in nothing that I don't want to. And elements like that right now, that's not even good for an animal. So it's not good for a human being. So
at all. And what's so crazy, man? Like we have no type of survival skills to be able, to live out in this. Like if somebody, I'm not gonna say we probably couldn't survive overnight, but do you think you can survive over a period of a month? If somebody just kicked you out with no money and took all your family and friends away, how do you think? How long do you think you would be able to survive?
without no money, you're not gonna survive.
Right.
I mean, you with
Especially with no
money,
survival skills.
you can go. If you got money, you can go and make shelter and build shelter and survive. But if you don't got no money, the best shelter that you got is try to dig a hole underground and get low as you can.
Yeah,
You
so
know what I'm
pretty
saying?
much
So
the average person would perish, because we don't know how to survive in these type of elements,
right.
maybe in the summertime you will be able to survive some days, but I don't think nobody would be able to survive in nothing like this if you're not prepared and have survival skills. So
That's
your best skill is to get off your ass and make it happen, or you're gonna be out here in these type of elements.
yeah.
Yeah,
They already
that's real talk.
we already come from a warm climate where our people is used to our bones being a certain temperature, and then when we was forced to come somewhere where the temperature wasn't the same, things is against us. So when we homeless, things is really against us as melanated people being in the cold. So we the wrong people to be having the situations where we don't know how we gonna get out the cold. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
For real.
And I'm glad that you hit on that, man. The type of people that we come from. Can you believe that, it's a large group of people that call well we're stereotyped as being lazy. I kind of laugh at that. I understand for the motherfuckers that's out here that's actually, excuse me for my language, but that's actually out here that's lazy, but for the most of us, that's a stereotype that's not true. And
Right.
that baffles me every time that I hear that.
Well, the
It's really
lazy
the opposite way around is what it
right.
really is.
How can you call somebody lazy? The people that built this country off their back, but the reason that they call it lazy is very simple. It's been straps to set that's been set for us to be lazy, welfare, things like that, to keep you not focused on the goal for the next 5 to 10 years. And then you got people to get lazy, not just black people, but we talking about our people right now. So I'm gonna focus on that. And that's what I believe the laziness came in with. Things like that, housing, low income housing, and things like that. You got to get out here and get your own because they will give it to you. And if you say to yourself, well, I don't want no better than to be on welfare for the next 20 years, your daughters and your granddaughters probably gonna want to be on welfare for the next 10 to 20 years because hey, they seen you go through it. So that's where the laziness come in, that all the people that's out here going to work, working 9 to 5s on a regular basis, that's what life is about. Once you somebody giving you a handout or something that you ain't worked for towards that, and you've been giving it, you're gonna get lazy.
Right.
That's where the laziness come in with our people. When people give us something, when you work hard for stuff, you ain't no such thing as lazy. We wasn't lazy when we were slaves and building America and things of that nature, but now we lazy because of the traps that's been set for us as Black people. And then when we see that, we all come together as a people and say, I'm gonna stop being lazy. But that's what it is.
No, I couldn't have said it no better. You hit it right on the button. It baffles me when I hear that coming from certain people who call another group of people lazy when really that's not true. It's really the other way around. You force another group of people to work for you so you wouldn't have to do the work yourself. Then you turn around and call that same group that you forced to work lazy. But I agree on a lot of stuff we were given, and sometimes that do I'm not going to say make a person or make people lazy, but when you didn't have to work hard for certain things, it will kind of make you lazy if you have to actually go out and work for it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man. So yeah, you have to do everything.
By them, it's all kind of traps that's been set. You put a person in the projects and got them living in a box for the last 20 years, they kind of get used to it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's an ongoing cycle, like you said, a generational curse. Your kids watching you being lazy and not doing nothing your entire life. And just being given handouts, so you see that, so you turn around and be that same person that your parents were, and that cycle has to, it's never broke, so that's why that's why probably, a lot of people call those type of people lazy. I won't even say Blacks, because you have a lot of white folks that's
that's receiving
in those same
benefits, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes down to our people, that's what it is, because we worked hard all our lives. Everybody came from down south, all those people that worked in the cotton fields, and so we know all about hard work. The laziness came with people giving us stuff, and we sitting back and just dealing with that for the next 20 years. It's a generational thing. Like I said, the mother the daughter see her mother do it, and the grandkids see it. You know how it just goes on, and that's where the laziness comes from.
And you hit it right on the nose, man. We have to change that cycle. We have to change the cycle where our kids are seeing, generational wealth type things, positive things. A family type structure. And the things that our counterparts show their children. Therefore, our children want to strive, want to have things, and want to, not go through the struggles that, those before us went through.
I'm gonna give you a prime example. You go out here every day and go to the plant and work your job, working 10 to 12 hours a day, you and your wife. So your son, he gonna see that and notice that. Instead of your son saying, well, my mom and daddy was on welfare, so shit, I'm gonna wait on my welfare check, and I'm gonna sit back and sell drugs or do whatever I got to do to be lazy or not to go as far as my parents did. But if your parents is lawyers and doctors, your kids probably gonna want to strive to be a lawyer or a doctor. That's just where it is. They follow suit, and that's what it is. And the powers that be knew that. That's why they put us in projects. They put us in situations where we would be comfortable and wouldn't think about a higher education, wouldn't think about trades to get you out of this situation. We had all these single parent women's out here, and they wouldn't be in this situation if they had someone to look up to and say, you can have this. You know, you can have a better life. You can go to college. You can get a trade. You can do this. They didn't have those role models. That's 9 times out of 10 why the girl that had her kids in the car and her mama in the car with them, that's all horrible. You in the car with your mama and the kids die, all of that could have been prevented with a better lifestyle.
Hey,
You
you hit it
know,
right
so
on the button. You know, and we're seeing a lot. We're seeing actually too much of that. You know, I don't think I've seen a point where you're seeing a lot of homeless mothers out here in these streets. You know, what is it with that? You know, because back to what I was saying earlier, you know, I'm quite sure that this woman had some type of, you know, housing set up that she probably squandered and fucked that over.
like I said, she didn't have no role model. I hate to say it, her mama was in the car with her.
Mm, wow. You know, how can you, you know, wow, you know, that there should want to, you know, make a person want to do better. You know, her mom was in the car with her. Mm. You know, so
Yep.
what is that showing? That what you know, what is that showing the kids that's in the car with you? You know, hopefully those kids, hopefully that mother do what she need to do with that money that she raised. I believe, like I said, she was able to get a house, a car out of the situation, you know, and maybe a few dollars. You know, hopefully, you know, I'm gonna have to look her up just to see.
I just hope that she got some guidance. Somebody showed her and told her, hey, it's better ways than the way you was living your life. You
Right.
know, whatever you got to do, everybody going through it. You know, got kids out here in the world that's not doing what they want them to do. But you know, if you see that and notice that, you need to be that person in your child's life to say, hey, you can do better because I did better. A lot of people, you know, I don't want to say that it's a lot of people out here that was doing better, got good jobs, and their kids still decide to go down a different route. But if that's the case, you still got to be a voice in that person's life and let them know, hey, you slipping.
Yeah.
Get
See,
yourself together.
and I'm not just gonna put all the blame on her too. You have to put some of the blame, and I forget exactly where was the father at in that situation. Why did she not go to him at least to drop the kids off to the fathers? You know, so do you remember what happened with that situation that you know, were all the kids by the same father, or why wasn't she able to drop any of the kids off to some of the fathers? That's what I don't understand. You know, so in situations like that, you have to put blame on both sides, especially if, you know, I'm quite sure the kids had fathers. So, you know, where were they at in that situation?
You know,
You know,
that's
so go
crazy.
ahead,
We
Big Ken.
talking about this. I just feel like whatever the situation is, you and the baby daddy not getting along, or whatever situation, when it comes down to them kids, that's what it's coming down to, the kids and their well-being. You know, I think a lot of parents out here, I ain't dealing with the mama, so I ain't dealing with the kids. That's not true. Because that's on you. At the end of the day, something happened to that man, if those was his kids that was in that car, you know, he gonna have to deal with that for the rest of his life just because
Yeah.
you didn't believe what she was going through. And now look at the circumstances. They still your kids. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
he allowed, you know, and I'm gonna go back and look that part up too, because I believe that they did find a father,
They
and I
did.
believe,
He said a
uh,
few words, but it still wasn't enough. Like I said,
yeah,
I believe that what the girl was going through, she basically did like the old story go, the little boy that cried wolf. She don't cry so much that people stop believing in her.
all
You know what
right.
I'm saying? And I
You know,
believe that
because
that's what
who
happened.
would not take, what type of father would not take their kids in? So there had to be more to that story for any of the fathers not to want to be able to take their kids in. You know, she probably was crying wolf, them probably not believing her that she didn't have, you know, no money or nowhere to be able to shelter herself or those kids. You know, so I'm definitely going to go back and look at that. You know, where and I need for you guys to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Comment down below if you know about that situation. We're talking about the young lady who died last year in Detroit, who died in a hotel parking garage, who was homeless, and her children end up dying in the car. So let us, comment down below. Give me your thoughts on that. What happened to the fathers? Where was the fathers at in that situation?
I hope they got their kids at this point because she seemed like that she was clueless.
No, they didn't get the kids. Remember, she ended up raising somebody. They ended up making a GoFundMe for her. She ended up raising a bunch of money. I believe she got a house out the situation, a new van.
Yeah, I remember
and
all of
some
that.
bread. They never once said anything about the fathers going. The children going back to the fathers, or the fathers getting custody of the children, or the father.
Because she seemed like she was overwhelmed, with however many kids she had, and she was trying to do the best. The story was just horrible. The mother in the car with him. Like I said, I can't say it no different from what I said. It's something straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah. And reason why we're talking about this story, because it's a perfect example of the title and what we're talking about today: freezing temperatures. And you got to count your blessings. Because you could have, been like that young woman, with children, who put herself out in that situation there, and she ended up losing 2 kids in this weather, because of her circumstances. So sometimes people do put themselves in situations or circumstances, where they're out there in the cold, and at the end of the day, like you said, she probably was crying wolf. A lot of people did not believe that she didn't have, nowhere to go or no money at all to be able to, at least put her children in a hotel room. You know what I mean? She,
Yeah.
hey, she could at least, sold some. I'm gonna keep it real. Women get out here and do what they got to do. Yeah, to be able to make sure that her kids would not freeze in that situation.
That part. Yeah, I agree
Hello?
1000% on that.
Yeah. So the kids died while the mother and the daughter was in the casino gambling.
Oh, so that was the story, the end result of the story. So that
they were in the casino gambling, but they also was living in a car in the garage.
Right. Oh wow, yeah.
So they had issues with gambling for one, and then the casino people would allow them to come in, and they still had gambling problems, and the kids end up dying because the car running still mine, the carbon monoxide, it was something. But yeah, the mother and and it was cold, so the mother and the daughter would be in a casino gambling.
Well, go first and foremost. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the show if you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Shauna J. I'm Big Hen's wife.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in and giving your comment. Because we were talking about that. I did not know the end result. So she actually was out there at the casino with her mother gambling while the kids was in the car asleep.
Yeah, well, they claimed they were inside the car. But yeah, that was the story that was known, that they had been in and out of that casino gambling and didn't know that the kids was dead in the car. Basically, they had froze to death. So, it's sad, but she ended up saying that she did try to reach out to the dad or whatever, but they raised all that, money and gave them shelter or whatever. But then her cousin that was on the news, she had a nice place. Why you ain't let them come stay with you?
Yeah, and we exactly, we were talking about that, but my question too, first, before we talk about that, how was she, if this was true, that they found her and the mama going inside the casino back and forth gambling while the kids was outside in the car, how in the heck was she able to have sympathy from people to be able to raise that much money? They got her a house, a car, and money from that GoFundMe, and she didn't face any charges. How was that possible, Shauna J?
Yeah, that's crazy. But they said that for instance, she had called downtown trying to get housing and trying to get help, but they said that they didn't have no spots for them and all of that. But when it boils down to it, when you got kids like that and you living in a car, they try to help you. somewhere tries to help you.
Yeah, and then like not to cut you off, hey, as a woman, you have to do what you have to do. Some women, and excuse my language, you know, you might have to get out there and sell some cat, you know, to be able to, you know, at least make some money that night to be able to put you and your children in the hotel room. She did none of that, you know. And my question again is, how did people have that much sympathy for her when she didn't even have that much sympathy for her children to be able to get out there and do that, at least to be able to shelter her children for that night?
See, the sympathy was more for the kids.
That's hard. That's hard.
Yeah, or even for the kids. She didn't have no sympathy for the kids.
And the mother, her mother was supposedly be in the car, and the daughter wasn't in the van when the kids passed. The mother was in the car, and she said she had dozed off or whatever, and didn't know that them kids was back there deceased.
Right.
Yeah, because they didn't find out until the next morning when they woke up. Well, supposedly when they woke up.
Yeah, so that's crazy and that's sad. And you would think, even with that casino, you would think that they would have guards that monitor those parking structures. I mean,
well, you know, the casinos, they don't give a fuck. And even if they did have security, they gonna ride right past them kids in that car. You know, they ain't getting out walking around in that type of weather.
yeah, you're right.
Yep. So, you know, in that situation, you know, she put herself, you know, she put those children in that circumstances. So I didn't understand why she didn't face any charges from that China J, and then how she was able to raise that money. But going forward, you know, have anybody did a report how she's doing now, you know, in these freezing temperatures this year? You know, which
I haven't seen anything as of yet. The only thing is that like you said, I heard that she didn't face any charges, and that it was a mistake, and you know, and that they were trying to help her. And I think the city and different people in the city felt like the city dropped the ball, because supposedly they do have record of her calling 2 times trying to get housing for her and her children. But it's so much things that's accessible to women and children. And then when one door shut, you gotta keep on knocking at other doors. I just don't understand.
See, and that was a flock of bullshit too, you know, because even if the shelter didn't let her in that night, she could have went to the hospital and admitted herself. She could even probably wouldn't sat inside the police station, you know. So she didn't exhaust all her options that night, you know. So in my opinion, you know, she failed as a mother that night. She should have been charged because there was multiple options. Like I said, the hospital. She could have went to the police station, because they're always telling you, or even in the fire department. You know, I'm quite sure they would open up the doors and let those children in. Go ahead, Big Hen.
That was her excuse the whole time, that she reached out for help. She said she went to the baby's daddy. She went to her own family. Shoot, like we just said, her mama was with her. So it was just a situation where, you know, the reason she got to GoFundMe because she was on there pleading her story, and Detroit, Michigan seen it, and the world seen it. And then, you know, when you got a woman going through what she went through, everybody is going to try to help after, you know, after the fact what happened. You know what I'm saying? They really not thinking about what she could have did. You understand what I'm saying? But yeah, she could have did a whole lot more than what she did, you know, to save her kids.
Because she did nothing. You know, and then at the end of the day,
But that's what I'm saying to you. She said that
for her
she did,
failures of not being a mom, you know. And I don't understand that, you know, because if the roles was reversed, you know, and that was a man, how do you think the community and the people would have felt? Do you think he would have he would have gotten a house, a car, you know, and money? No, I think he would have been looking at charges.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I want to have to agree with you on that, but
hell yeah, the search and service would have took those kids away. He would have been looking at charges, and no one wouldn't have put a dime in his GoFundMe.
No.
You know, we have to look at situations like that. You know, we can't. You have to get on. You have to. You know, we have to talk about situations like how we're talking about that now. You know, because it's a mother out. It's a mother that's probably out there homeless right now, in these same situations and these same predicaments. That's probably, you know, that can't help her circumstances, and this young woman, she probably had all the help in the world, and still end up squandering, the Section 8 that she probably had, some type of housing, and like I said, she was rewarded, for being a poor parent, in my opinion.
Mm.
Okay, prime example. 2 weeks ago, I think you can go back and look on WDIV, but they had a special where all the homeless shelters, when we first got cold, but not as cold as now, had families of women that were in their cars outside the homeless shelters. Some women, it was a woman and 4 children, and they said they had no room well, put it like this, they said they could come in, but it was over, it was over capacity. And the news was saying, what are we going to do to help these women
You
into
know what?
housing and things like that. So just the other day, the mayor talked about they have a facility open, because that type of stuff can't go on, because a lot of
Right.
shelters are over capacity, and then you don't want your children around a lot of different people when you're in a homeless shelters, because a lot of them some of them have mental issues, and so you just all in this room, you got to worry about somebody touching your kid and all of this. But like I said, they had cars, about 4 or 5 cars of women and their children outside the homeless shelter, living in their car, and they couldn't
Now
even go
this,
in the shelter because they didn't feel comfortable because it was over capacity. Homeless shelter.
Right.
now,
And that to me, go ahead, Big Ken. I'll allow you to rebuttal off of that.
I'm just thinking this. We got all these houses and stuff out here that no one's living in, abandoned buildings and stuff like this. We got DTE. You already know that they can turn on gas and electric wherever they want to. It should really be people out here going through that. If the mayor and everybody wanted to turn on a couple of these houses and these neighborhoods while this weather and stuff is like this, they could. I mean, I think the people need to come together and say, hey, we ain't got to have people out here freezing and cold. We got abandoned houses right now where only thing DT would have to do was turn on the electric and the gas, and people will have places to go. So at the same time, I don't think it's enough being done by the people that can change the things that they can change. Period.
No, well, we know that's a fact. Well, far as abandoned houses, they don't give a care about, trying to,
But you know
put
what I'm
people in those
saying
thoughts.
though.
I
It
understand what you're
don't have
trying to
to be
say.
like that.
Yeah, no,
It
it
don't have
doesn't.
to
It
be
doesn't.
like that.
It's a money situation. That's gonna have to go to the people who spend our taxes to be able to force, the city and the state to be able to, provide facilities, for homeless people, so that they won't be able to go through circumstances like that. So we have to force the state and the city,
Right.
who we pay our taxes to be able to provide services, for the unfortunate. So mothers won't be out here, with their children freezing to death.
Yeah, we got
Excuse
all
me.
these houses out here that's abandoned, and they can be shelter for people just until they can get on their feet. But we dealing with the people that say, hey, they're gonna have to get it how they live, but it ain't got to be like that. The powers that be can change things, just like they sending notices to people houses because they ain't paid their bill. They can turn on some stuff until people can do better. You see what I'm saying? But that's
Right.
just my thoughts on that.
All right. Well, look, I'm not gonna hold you guys too long. Shana J, you still with us? Can you hear me? Your volume, you kind of went down.
Hold on. My volume
Okay,
is
there you go. You know
down.
what? I actually did that. I turned the phone down. My bad.
Yep, I'm still here. But yeah, something has to be done,
Okay,
and
there you go. You know
you
what?
know,
I
and
actually
it's
did that. I turned the
really a lot of things that could be done, and it's all about the community. There's always 2 sides to that. People need to take responsibility, and be about their business, in order for their families to survive. It's things that they could do, and it's also things that the community can do as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you know, so and that was and I understand what you guys were talking about, like far as the abandoned houses. You know, we as the people, we have to force the city and the state to be able to, you know, like say for instance, if you went and uplifted this and reconstructed this abandoned house, and you should be able to go back to the city, get paid for that, and you know, and use that as like some type of resource for a homeless
Right.
or a shelter. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we as the people, we should be able to do things like that and force the state or the city to be able to pay us for things like that.
Right.
You know,
You
go ahead, begin.
you got, like I said, they send you notices when your bills and stuff is due, but
Yeah,
you got homeless people out here that ain't eating and don't have nowhere to go. You need to be having programs for that. It should be
you break
the,
you
the, the
breaking all the
energy
way up,
companies.
begin.
They hold a lot of powers in their hands too.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
So yeah, you
the
know,
water company, DTE, and everybody else. I hope they watching because they can do something about this stuff that's going on. Like people walking around here don't know where they're gonna lay their head at. And on my block alone, it's about 8 to 10 houses with nobody staying in them. DTE turned on some power, so it's some people that will have somewhere to go tonight. You see what I'm
yeah.
saying? But
Well, like I
they
said,
not thinking like that.
we're gonna have to force the city to do something about it. But look, Steiner J, let everybody know what you got going on and where they can reach you.
All right, so this is Shauna J, also known as Shy Lady J on Instagram. And that's how you can reach me.
Okay, well, let everybody know about you know, your party planning and you know things like that you got going on.
Well, yes, I'm an event coordinator. I do events. And I also can give advice on being a care provider. I care for people, and I'm also a full-time manager. But you know, that's how I can be reached. I can also be reached on Facebook, Shauna Jefferson, and that's about it.
There we go. Well, again, you heard her. She's a caretaker. She's an event planner. Get with her if you have those needs, and she'll definitely get you right. You know, so again, Shannon J, I want to thank you for coming on the show, giving your thoughts, giving your advice. You know, because someone is going to hear this message, you know, and at the end of the day, no one should be out here in these type of freezing temperatures that we having today. And you know, you definitely have to count your blessings. Big Ken, let everybody know what you got going on and where they can reach you.
Okay, right now you can reach me at the What Up Those shows pretty much on Freestyle Fridays every Friday. But until I get my own podcast up, that's where you can reach me at.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Well, look, I want to thank both of you guys for coming on the show. You know, especially you, Shauna J, you know, because we were kind of stuck. I did not know exactly the whole situation with the young woman, how that situation ended. You know, so again, I want to thank both of you guys for coming on here and giving your input. You know, it was a great show, you know, and at the end of the day, like we were talking about, if you are a pet owner, make sure your pets are inside with you chilling. It's too cold, you know, even for animals to be outside in this cold. And if you have family members that may be homeless or may, you know, not have nowhere to go, you know, at least if you're not opening up your doors personally, you know, try to at least, you know, lead them to, you know, some type of shelter, you know, or, you know, try to advise them where to go. You know, so it's been another one. It's your boy Dame D, and we are out. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.